All right, thanks for tuning in. My name's Alan. I run Next Level Riding and I'm a level 2 PMBI mountain bike instructor. In this video, I just want to touch on the very basics of body position, the foundational base of all the skills, the pyramid of skills in PMBI. So let's touch on one aspect of body position. So there's many components to the body position, lots of different things we can talk about, but for today's video, we're just going to focus on the fore and aft positioning. So how far forward on the bike, how far backwards, and how to sort of find that middle section of the bike. You really want to be centered on the bike, and you want to be able to feel stable, yet have some flexibility and be able to move backwards and forwards. So let's have a look at the body position on the bike and how we can find that center so that we can feel stable on the bike. I see a lot of people going down the trail leaning back like this. So when people are leaning back in the bike, you're going to feel your hands tighten up. It's because you're hanging on. You're just hanging on to the bike. You're too much weight in the back and you're not going to be able to control the bike as easily. So when you're leaning back, that front wheel is a little bit unweighted. Worst case scenario, you're heading into a berm, you're leaning back, and there's less weight on the front, so that sort of skips out, washes out. It's happened to everybody. You're going around a turn and the front wheel just gives out on you. The reason that is because you're too far back, just as I demonstrated. The other issue is leaning too far forward and having too much weight on the handlebars rather than centered through the pedals. So let me show you what too far forward looks like. So people tend to put too much weight on the bars. The way you'll know there's too much weight on the bars is by feeling tension in the shoulders or pressure in the palm of the hand. The bars are not there to lean on. We don't really want to be pushing down on those bars when we're starting to learn how to mountain bike. What happens is, because of the undulation of the terrain, if we put too much weight on the handlebars, it's likely that more weight will go on one side than the other, and the front wheel just starts to twitch back and forth. So we want to try and find this sweet spot in the center of our bike, so we're pushing straight through, our body weight's going straight through the center of the bike. So we can play with that and just, find a space on the road on a nice easy piece of terrain and feel the edges of your bike. Lean forward, lean backwards, and then just like a pendulum, trying to find that center spot. So you can lean forwards, feel what that feels like, lean backwards again, feeling what that feels like in the hands, and we just want to try and find that center spot on the bike. Okay, so how do we find the center? There's a few touch points that we want to focus on the bike. Firstly, our pedals being level is a good start. If we have one pedal lower than the other, we're going to have a weird weight distribution. Plus also, we can maybe catch the pedal on a root or a rock that's underneath. So we're just going to level out the pedals like so. We're also going to make sure our foot is positioned on the pedal so that the axle is just slightly forward of center. I see a lot of people riding with their toes here. Now sometimes when people have clipless pedals, so they've got the cleats on the bottom, there's not much option, but I would definitely pull the cleats back as far as you possibly can so you can get the most centered position on the bike. When we're centered, we have a much stronger base of support, so we can stand nice and strong. It also helps when the pressure is going through the bike, we can stand firm. When we're more toe end, we tend to tiptoe a little bit on the bike, and we have a hard time actually dropping and feeling solid. Could also really pull your Achilles here. So let's get that center to start with, and that's going to really help us find a centered position on the bike. When we're riding down the trail, we want to make sure our chin is above this bolt here that attaches the fork through the frame. So just where the stem wraps around the steerer tube here, we want to make sure our chin is above here. If it's too far back here, we're going to be too far in the back. If it's over the bars, we're going to be too far in the front. Now for climbing, it's okay to get our chin over front, but when we're descending, we want to try and keep it directly above the bars there. It's just going to help us find where that center position is. If we focus on that as well when we're going around the turns, it's going to keep us centered. A lot of people tend to lean back in the turns. So we want to make sure we keep the chin over the stem and even as we're going around the turns. It's going to keep us more centered on the bike. The other part is keeping our hips above the seat. So if we can focus on these two pieces, we're going to know that we're going to feel a little centered. We're going to feel more centered. So keep aware of where your chin and your hips are on the bike, also where your feet are positioned on the pedals, and then just that feeling through the shoulders or through the hands as to whether you're leaning too heavily on the bars or leaning too far back. Just play with that on the trail, get used to feeling that centered position. We're going to try and feel the equal amount of pressure or weight through the front as on the back. The bottom bracket is in the center here, which passes where the crank's attached to. It passes through the center of the bike. We just want to make sure that all our weight is constantly driving through that section of the bike. Whenever the bike is being weighted, it's weighted straight through the middle there. So as you're out on the trail, as you're out on the logging roads, just keep playing with that center. Keep coming back to center. As we advance as riders, we can certainly use this range of motion over top of the bike to change the weight in the wheels, but as we're learning, we want to just keep the weight as even as possible through the wheels. That's going to maximize our traction and make it just a safer ride. So there is an article that I have written that goes alongside with this little video, so click the link in the description below to read the full article. It goes into a little bit more depth and maybe it'll help sort of support what I'm saying here. So check that out. But go practice on the trails, go and feel that centered point. Again, don't overthink it. Just think about the weight in the bike. Feel the trail rather than overthinking it. Just using those points that I mentioned as what you're feeling through your body as to whether you're centered or not. Okay, so I hope that helped. Trying to feel centered on the bike is the point of this lesson. You're wanting to feel the terrain through your feet. You want to try and stay as centered as possible. Obviously, as the terrain changes and the undulations come about, it's going to knock you slightly off balance. So we want to constantly move and change our position so that we're staying centered between those two wheels. We're trying to feel that even amount of weight between both of the wheels. So it's the same amount of pressure on the front as there is on the back, and it's going to constantly shift, so we need to constantly shift our body, and we can do that by bending the knees or hinging at the hips just to find that centered spot on the bike. So go out onto your local trails or onto the logging roads and just try that out nice and slow, just feeling the center. Don't overthink it too much. Use the body to give you the feedback as to where you are on the bike. Staying nice and centered, nice and balanced, you're going to feel a lot more confident on the trail. So, hope you enjoyed that one. Thanks for watching. Leave any comments below if you've got any questions about that. There's also an article, there's a link below to that article that I've written. It gives you a little bit more details on that. And also, there's a few more lessons if you want to click one of these extra videos here. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you out there somewhere on the trails. Take care. See you.